You know, I was in my car the other day and I heard the track Jive Talkin'. You know, everybody's heard that Bee Gees song, of course, but it was the first time in a long time I basically heard it from beginning to end and really appreciated the song's brilliance. Well, that basically, I think, gave me the impetus to do a quick video on the album from which it came, Main Course. Stick with me. Hey, I'm Michael Douglas. Welcome back to another episode of Dr. Pundit, where we talk about music, not medicine. And I want to talk about the album Main Course. It's a solid album, but I don't think it really gets the props that an album that gave one of the Bee Gees their biggest hits should get, and how this album really rejuvenated their career in the mid-1970s. Now, knowing when to pivot away from something that's been successful in the past to a new sound can be a very tricky part of an act's career. Right? In the case of the Bee Gees, they watched their popularity dip from their early heydays, think late 1960s, Odessa, but they still briefly clung to what they knew. When the Bee Gees did make the jump to something different, they brought along with them the strengths that they had already established. And it all came together on their 1975 album, Main Course. That's right, the album's 50 years old. And it really, I think, reset their career. 3 years earlier, in July of 1972, the Bee Gees released the single Run to Me. Now, the song hit top 20 in the United States, top 10 in the UK, top 5 in their native Australia. But it seemed at the time that it was just really another in a long stretch of hits for them that had begun roughly 6 or 7 years earlier and had only been interrupted by their brief breakup. Yes, that's true, and that could be the subject of another video, I suppose. But as it turned out, the song Run to Me proved to be the last hit of significance for this band for about 3 to 3.5 years. A lot of people think that the Bee Gees kind of parlayed their late 1960s, early 1970s success, that they were always on the radar, and then Saturday Night Fever hit and boom, they blew up. Well, that's why I wanted to talk about this album, Main Course, because this album obviously was released before Saturday Night Fever, and it was absolutely pivotal to getting their career back on track. Now, during that lull from 72 to 75, the Bee Gees watched as their signature band of, florid pop ballads fell out of favor in the music marketplace. Something needed to be done to right the ship. Pop music was changing, and without talking about the dreaded D word, disco, overall there was a fundamental shift in the length of songs, the production complexity of songs, you name it. So they were kind of in this limbo. And then the brothers Gibb began that process of kind of restructuring themselves on their 1974 album, Mr. Natural. Now, on that record, they worked with famed producer Arif Mardin, and Mardin helped them incorporate some Philly soul. Okay, this was another subgenre of 70s soul that was extremely successful by that time. Countless artists from the early 1970s through the mid-1970s, the OJs, Spinners. So Mardin was called on to kind of create some of those touches to their sound, but the album still really wasn't a success. And the manager of the band, Robert Stigwood, wanted them to add some musically aggressive, for lack of a better term, songs to their repertoire. The Bee Gees decided to record their next album in Miami on the suggestion of Eric Clapton, believe it or not, who had enjoyed the experience on his album 461 Ocean Boulevard. A change of pace, a change of scenery. The Bee Gees fell back into old habits, starting the recording process with a few ballads. Stigwood insisted they go back to the drawing board and begin again. Now, to their credit, they heeded the advice, and they were helped in that case by the addition of the keyboardist Blue Weaver to the band. And Weaver's synth bass hooks embellished singles Nights on Broadway, great track, Jive Talkin' with funk. And Barry Gibb added some falsetto, of course. What would it be without his falsetto? To the song Nights on Broadway with another crucial change of tactics. The finished album, Main Course, proved to be the band's biggest seller up to that time, with 3 smash singles. And, when you listen to the album Main Course, which is what I did after hearing Jive Talking on streaming, you can almost kind of hear that internal struggle that the Bee Gees were really undergoing in terms of reestablishing their music identity in the pop marketplace. And they only really commit fully to the funk soul ballads on the 3 singles. But their songwriting and vocal harmonies make the transition to those new styles pretty much intact. Now, Jive Talkin' anticipates, of course, the disco sound that would soon engulf them, and Nights on Broadway is a swirling kind of a maelstrom of a song, beautifully constructed, featuring the brothers' vocal blendings at its, pretty engaging pitch. And the song Fanny Be Tender With My Love finds in a kind of quiet storm mode. I don't think they really pull it off as well on that song as they do with, say, Jive Talkin'. The rest of the album mostly features songs that they've done before, and they did quite well. Songbird is a track there. Baby As You Turn Away are prime ballads. All This Making Love is an underrated kind of Beatlesque kind of song, and I urge you, if you play this album, to listen to that track because it's fairly interesting, actually. And Country Lanes lets Robin Gibb indulge in some baroque pop as well, kind of a different sounding tenor for him. Now, I don't tend to think of the Bee Gees as album artists, but Main Course is an exception to that rule because, in my opinion, it deserves its just desserts based on the fact that it did reset their career. It did make the Bee Gees hip and popular again with little critical fallout. But it also proved crucial to their career trajectory, of course. Now, after all, it set the table for the massive second act that was to come in the late 1970s as the lapels widened, the strobes flashed, and the falsetto went into overdrive. Main Course. If you really haven't heard this album, I definitely would give it a try. You can kind of listen to some of the tracks we talked about. Of course, I'm sure all of you have heard Jive Talkin', but again, you should, when you listen to it, get a newfound appreciation about its crucial placement within the Bee Gees catalog. And I think listening, through that filter gives it a whole new appreciation for the listener. I know it does for me. So Main Course by the Bee Gees, fantastic album from 50 years ago. This year, 1975. I'm Michael Douglas, and if you like what you see here on the channel, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe. And as the late, great Barry White always used to say, let the music play, and I'll see you on the next episode.